the episode begins. Pearl opens her eyes and looks at the flowers in front of her, wondering, what's that? Something's tickling my nose. Is that a butterfly? Then Eric speaks from right in front of her. I think you're about to cry. I like you even like this. But Anthony had said that tears mean sadness. Pearl says, I'm not sad. Then she thinks to herself, maybe I'm having a bad dream. Eric says, well, that's true. As long as you're with me, you don't need to be sad because I love you. Eric then kisses her. Pearl gets up and says, I'm a little hungry. Can we go out? Eric says, but I brought you a gift. Let's see it first. Hearing this, Pearl wonders, a gift? Is this the relative Rudy said she was talking about? Could it be my mother? By the way, how did Roddy get past that magical barrier and into the room? Eric takes her to a garden. Seeing the garden, Pearl thinks, I can't believe this place really exists. It's so beautiful. Just then, Eric performs a magic spell that causes a buggy to fall down, scaring Pearl, and Roddy emerges from the buggy. Pearl is very surprised to see Madier, and wonders why Madier is that a gift. Madier sees Pearl and walks towards her and angrily says, you are still alive, you dirty woman. But then Eric saves Pearl and gives Madier a hard kick. Then Eric asks Pearl, are you okay? Pearl says, yes, I am fine. On the other hand, Madier, lying on the ground, angrily says, why? Why doesn't this woman die? Then Pearl says, can I talk to her for a while first? Eric says, yes, okay, but I still suggest you use the same dagger I gave you. Cut it. Pearl laughs and says, you know very well that I won't do that, she asks Madier. How is Madier's mother? Madier replies, yes, mother. Your mother was a nasty woman too. She always betrayed our families. That nasty woman. Pearl angrily replies, how dare you insult my mother? Madier shouts, they even swore on the Rhyme Titty family and gave you your engagement to Jacob. Eric becomes furious. Pearl then replies, yes, I don't understand what you're saying. Eric quickly approaches her and says, you're my bride. Anthony said only you and I were meant for engagement. Madier is shocked and wonders, what is he saying? Engagement. Anthony then angrily shouts, you should have married that old man and slowly died in agony on his bed. But that royal soldier, Jacob, and this dragon, you're all blind fools. Then she laughs, taking out a ring from her hand and says, now I understand. You were in cahoots with those dragons from the beginning. Now I'll go and tell Papa everything. Then Papa will put you and your mother in jail. Then she throws the ring at Pearl and says, go to hell. But Eric stops the ring. Pearl then says, what is this? A ring. Eric says, it's Morvazar. Pearl thinks terrified. Is it the Morvazar I read about in my father's books? Morvazar can erase every trace of a person. Then she looks at Madier and says, so she really wants to kill me. Madier, I can't let you go back. I really can't let you go back. Kill mother? Eric then sends the ring back to her, causing Madier to panic and hide in the ground. But then Anthony stops her, to which Eric speaks angrily. Anthony says again, you'll kill her. I just want you to stop trying to kill people in front of her. But Eric, hitting Anthony, says, shut up. After saying this, Eric comes to attack again. Just then, Rhodey stops him and says, Eric, don't fight here. This flower garden belongs to Donna. Eric says, get out of my way. Rhodey says, hand her over to us. We'll make sure she never returns to the human realm. Then he says to Pearl, only you can stop her. Pearl yells from behind, stop Eric. Hearing this, Eric stops. Then Rhodey says, if Donna comes back alive, she'll turn you all into flower fertilizer. And Pearl looks at Madier and thinks, she clearly wants to kill me. But now that she's alive, I don't know why I feel relieved. Then she asks, am I being too cowardly, Rhodey? Hearing this, he says, not at all. You're a good and kind person. You're used to solving problems through the law, not personal battles. But I hope you can understand us dragons. We have no laws, only killing, and that's all. Just then, several dragons fly over her, and Rady is speaking from behind. This is the continent of Esterada, where anything is possible. Pearl then takes her dagger in her hand and says, I won't interfere like this anymore. If you want to kill him, I have no problem. Rhodey says, lady, death is the just reward for sinners. We never show mercy. We then see a scene sometime later where Eric is shouting, everyone, stop. It's my fault. Rady replies, so what? He said we can eat his food himself, right? Pearl replies, yes, absolutely. Eric then says to Pearl, then I want you to feed me. Pearl offers him a spoon and says, I'm sure you can eat by yourself. Eric then starts eating with his hands. Then Pearl says, you eat? I'll forgive you. Watching them, Anthony thinks, this guy is really interesting. He's recognized his place in a matter of moments. Eric then eats, thinking, it seems bringing his relatives to justice was really effective. Now, who will be the next one I should catch? But then he remembers Madier's words. He swore on the Fumetti family's name and gave your engagement to Jacob. Eric then angrily says, "Ob, who is this Jacob? I'll tear that Jacob to pieces." Pearl says, "Jacob?" And then he remembers where Jacob was speaking to him. "I'm leaving now and I brought this for you." Pearl thinks, is this love? I don't know, but he's one of the few people who's ever shown me kindness. Then she grabs Eric and thinks, no, if Eric really goes after Jacob, he'll ruin her. Then she tells Eric, maybe Moodle is lying. Maybe I don't have a marriage contract with Jacob. Please don't make any hasty moves. Then Eric angrily says, are you siding with him? Pearl fearfully says, no, I just think she's lying. This can't be true. Then Anthony says, just send some elves to investigate. After all, you're his daughter. He won't give your hand to anyone without reason. Jacob is the captain of the Howling Knights, a respected man. Finding out the truth won't be difficult. But Pearl thinks to herself, he still doesn't seem very happy, and Anthony tells Eric, don't worry, I've heard stories about this man. Such people enter into human marriage contracts only when you find it when someone hands it over, so you definitely have a chance to do something. Then we see Eric sitting with Pearl in his lap and saying, you're mine, and no one can have you, do you understand? But Pearl is thinking to herself, her hair smelling of blood. Then she asks Eric, can I brush your hair? Eric is overjoyed. Pearl wonders, her eyes light up. Does that mean yes? After a moment, Eric says, okay, do it. Seeing him like this, Pearl thinks, he always looks a little smaller without his leather armor. Then Eric lies down in her lap, and Pearl starts oiling his hair. Then she thinks, it's so easy to please him, but the love he shows me, I don't know when it will end. Tell me what he's going to be like these days. He never lets me cook for Rhodey or even feed the animals or feed anyone else or stroke the cat's fur. Just then, Eric comes over and looks at her, thinking, why can't she just be kind to me? This should be all about me. Just then, Pearl sees Eric. Then she thinks to herself, what's wrong? Why does he still look sad? Maybe I should try to cheer him up. Then she takes a butterfly in her hand and says, look at the pattern on this butterfly. It's exactly like your eyes. Both are blue. Eric grabs it and asks, am I prettier or this butterfly? Eric is very close to Pearl, and Pearl is very shy. A moment later, Eric says, you like butterflies? I can make them special for you. Pearl, saving the butterfly, says, no, you can't do that. If you like something, you don't need to trap it. Just then, a dragon arrives and says, Your Majesty, winter is coming. The werewolves have crossed the border again, along with those stray dragons. Eric gives Pearl the butterfly and says, okay, I'm leaving now. He frees the butterfly and starts walking away. As Pearl walks into the palace, she thinks, something big has happened. All the dragons in the palace are gone. Then her eyes fall on a door, and she wonders if it's the main entrance. She then sees it. She places her hand on the door, which activates a spell, transporting her directly to the room containing the eggs. Then, holding an egg in her hand, she says sadly, oh, what was I thinking? He'd let me go so easily, and even if I did get out, where would I go? Then she thinks, I never paid attention before. She gave it. But the scent of the oil is like the scent of her hair, so it's not much different from a dragon's egg. It's like a baby. It just takes a little coaxing. Then she shyly leaves the room, thinking, no, don't bring up this strange thought. He could eat my baby dragon any moment. Just then, her eyes fall on a painting. She thinks to herself, that's strange. I haven't seen a female dragon yet. If there aren't any female dragons, how do they hatch? And they have no way of bearing them. Well, that's not for me to think about. She starts to leave. Just then, a voice comes from behind her, Miss Bosephine Pearl. Then Pearl turns back and asks, who's there? Just then, a laugh comes from upstairs, and Pearl thinks to herself, that's the same painting. The person in the painting is speaking. Then, laughing, she says from within, if Eric hadn't gone, I probably wouldn't have this chance to talk to you. Pearl, thrusting her dagger forward, thinks, stay calm. Dragons are very possessive about their belongings, so I'm probably safe. The woman says, don't be afraid. No dragon will want to harm you because Eric loves you very much. But even more than that, you're our hope. Pearl thinks, what hope? Anthony said he truly loves you and wants to marry you. Rhodey also said, you have no idea what he's done for you. And he himself said, I love you, many times. But still, I feel like that butterfly in his hand. At any moment, I could vanish into dust. But this time, things seem a little more complicated. Then the woman says, Miss Bosephine Pearl, my descendant is calling you through me. Good luck. With this, she casts a teleportation spell on Pearl, teleporting her directly to a forest. She then begins to fall rapidly, but she escapes with the help of her dagger. Then she looks down and thinks, where am I? Have I teleported to the battlefield? Then she feels something and thinks to herself, what is that behind me?